The average American eats nearly 80 pounds of sugar every year. Not over a lifetime, every single year. That's the equivalent of going through a 5-pound bag of sugar every week after week, no breaks. Now look at your kitchen counter. That sugar bowl sitting there. Do you actually know what you're eating? Most of us grew up with white sugar. It sat on the breakfast table next to the salt shaker. Your grandma used it for baking. Your mom dropped a spoonful into her coffee every morning. White sugar is the default, like it's always been there, always been normal. But here's what nobody ever told you: that pure white sugar isn't sugar's natural state. It's the product of privileged modern technology, and possibly a campaign of deception that's been running for over 130 years. Welcome to Mysteries of Simple Things, the channel where everyday secrets are uncovered and explained. Let's start with the basics. Both white sugar and brown sugar come from the same place: sugarcane, or sugar beets. When the juice is pressed out, boiled down and crystallized, what you first get are brown crystals coated in molasses, a thick, dark syrup with a rich, complex flavor. That's sugar in its most natural form. And for thousands of years of human history, that was the only thing that existed. Pure white sugar only came about once people developed enough technology to filter, centrifuge, and bleach it, a process so expensive that for centuries, only the nobility and the wealthy could afford white sugar. Your great-great-grandparents, if they grew up before the industrial age, used brown sugar and molasses, not because they preferred it, but because it was the only thing they could afford. White sugar was a luxury item. Yet today, we treat white sugar as the normal one. That's a complete reversal of history. And it didn't happen by accident. In the late 1800s, Domino Sugar ran one of the dirtiest marketing campaigns in American food history. They photographed bacteria found in brown sugar under a microscope. Completely harmless. Microorganisms then blew up the images, printed them, and distributed flyers warning people about the health dangers of brown sugar. The result: white sugar consumption in America doubled in just 35 years, from 1880 to 1915. An entire brown sugar and molasses industry was wiped out. Farmers abandoned their fields, and the habits of millions of Americans were reshaped by a microscope and a company that wanted to sell more white sugar. The next time you reach for that white sugar canister, remember, you might be carrying out a habit engineered by an ad campaign from over a century ago. But the story doesn't stop there. In the 1960s, the sugar industry once again interfered with science, this time secretly funding researchers to blame fat as the cause of heart disease, while burying any evidence pointing to sugar's role. The country's nutritional policy was steered in that direction for decades. Your parents' generation grew up being taught that fat was the enemy, sugar was fine. Now you know the rest of the story. Alright, so how are brown sugar and white sugar actually different? Not in a marketing sense, but in a real chemistry sense. This is the part most people don't know, and once you get it, you'll never look at a batch of baked goods the same way again. White sugar is pure sucrose, neutral, clean. Nothing particularly interesting happens except that it's sweet. Brown sugar, thanks to the molasses, contains amino acids and reactive sugars. And when they hit high heat in the oven, those two components trigger what's called the Maillard reaction. That reaction produces hundreds of new chemical compounds. Caramel notes, toffee depth, complexity. White sugar can only go through simple caramelization. Brown sugar opens up an entire library of chemistry inside your oven. And here's where it gets even more interesting: brown sugar is acidic. Baking soda is alkaline. When those two meet inside your batter, they react and produce CO2, yes, actual bubbles, which makes your baked goods rise and gives them a chewy texture. White sugar is neutral and can't participate in that reaction. That's why you can't just do a simple 1-1 swap in every recipe. You're not just swapping out sweetness, you're changing the entire chemical equation. Next time you're making chocolate chip cookies and wondering why one batch comes out different from the last, remember this: use more white sugar and the cookies will rise higher. Be lighter and come out crispier. Use more brown sugar and they'll spread wider. Sit flatter and turn out chewier. The question isn't which one tastes better. The question is what you want your cookie to do: puff up or spread out, crispy or chewy. Each choice is a different set of technical instructions. One more thing about brown sugar that you've probably dealt with before: that rock-hard brick in your pantry. That happens because the molasses in brown sugar pulls moisture from the air, and when you leave the container open, that moisture slowly evaporates, causing the crystals to bind together into one solid chunk. Your grandma's old trick is legit. Drop a slice of bread into the container overnight. The moisture from the bread will migrate into the sugar due to the difference in vapor pressure. By morning, the bread is stiff and the sugar is soft again. Physics is happening right inside your pantry and you never even noticed. Now, the idea that a lot of people have that brown sugar is healthier than white sugar has a sliver of truth to it, but not in the way you think. Brown sugar does contain small amounts of calcium, potassium, iron, and magnesium from the molasses. But small amounts here means you'd have to eat an unrealistic quantity of sugar to feel any benefit from it. Something your doctor and your dentist would never sign off on. Both are still sugar. Your body processes them almost identically. Don't let the brown color fool you into thinking you're doing something better for your health. There's one last secret, and this one might make you look at that white sugar on your counter in a completely different way. To get that perfectly pure white color, many major manufacturers in the US filter their sugar through bone char, that is cattle bones, that have been burned down to charcoal. The bones are sourced from various countries and act as a natural color filter. Sugar made from sugar beets does not use this process, and that's the simplest way to tell the difference if this matters to you. Have you ever wondered why white sugar is so white? Now you have your answer. So what should you actually use? The real answer is simpler than you'd think. It depends on what you're making. If you want pure sweetness that doesn't compete with other flavors like in lemonade or frosting, white sugar is the right call. If you want depth, warmth, caramel notes, and a chewy texture, brown sugar is what you need. And if you're just dropping some in your morning coffee, that's purely a matter of personal taste. But whatever you choose, at least now you're choosing with the full picture, not out of childhood habit, not because of a marketing campaign from 130 years ago, and certainly not because you think one is more natural based on color alone. Those two simple sugars sitting on your kitchen counter actually carry a complicated history, a fascinating science and stories that nobody ever bothered to tell you until now.